welcome back to Omoshiroi Recap. Today, I will recap Infinite Stratos. The story begins with a teenager named Orimura Ichika who accidentally discovers his hidden talent. He can use Infinite Stratos that girls can only use, so Ichika is forced to enter the Infinite Stratos school and become the only male student. On the first day, Ichika entered school. He became the center of attention of all students. Then came a teacher named Orimura Chifuyu. She is Ichika's older sister. Not only that, Chifuyu is very famous for all her great achievements in the past, and because of that, the students are amazed by her. When Ichika was lonely, a childhood friend came to him. She was named Haoki. They talk about their past since they haven't seen each other in a long time. It can be seen that Haoki has had feelings for Ichika since she was little until now. Then in class, a student from an aristocratic family approached Ichika. Her name was Cecilia. Cecilia explains that she is a representative from England, because Ichika doesn't know anything about Infinite Stratos, which upsets Cecilia. After arguing with Cecilia, Ichika headed to his room. Ichika will share a room with Haoki. Of course, they were both shocked, and Haoki wanted to hit him because he had seen her beautiful body. In the end, they will still be roommates. The next day, Chifuyu wants to ask a representative to participate in the class tournament next week. The students chose Ichika as a representative, but Cecilia didn't accept that, so she challenged Ichika to fight against her. Later in the fight, Ichika will get personal Infinite Stratos to fight Cecilia. Personal Infinite Stratos is very rare and only used by great people. Of course, Cecilia also has her own Infinite Stratos. Then Ichika asked for Haoki's help to teach him about Infinite Stratos. Haoki immediately trained him and even gave kendo training. After that, Ichika gets his Infinite Stratos named by Akushiki. Ichika only needs to touch Infinite Stratos to understand how to use Infinite Stratos. So Ichika is ready to fight with Cecilia. As the fight begins, Ichika is cornered by Cecilia's continuous fire. Even though he was shot, his Infinite Stratos was still in normal mode. But this time, his Infinite Stratos has entered serious mode and is stronger than before. When Ichika wanted to launch his strongest attack to defeat Cecilia, suddenly, his shield energy ran out. That's because Ichika overused the power of Infinite Stratos, so he ran out of energy. In the end, the duel was won by Cecilia. After that, Chifuyu explains that Ichika has used Yukihira's anti-shield sword to defeat the opponent with one strike. But it takes a lot of energy to use these weapons. Even though Cecilia won the battle, Ichika managed to win Cecilia's heart.
Orimura Ichika.
The next day at practice, Ichika and Cecilia are asked to show them how to drive an Infinite Stratos. Cecilia easily flew her Infinite Stratos, while Ichika, who is still a beginner, suddenly goes out of control and falls from a great height. Cecilia, who was worried, immediately approached Ichika to see if he was okay. Luckily, Ichika wasn't hurt. After that, they celebrated Ichika's election as a class representative because Cecilia decided to resign and handed over the representative to him. Then there was news that another transfer student would be in the next class. It turned out that he was one of Ichika's acquaintances. Her name was Rin, and she was a representative from Chinese. During recess, the two talked to each other in the cafeteria. Ichika explained the reason why he was there. When Ichika wanted to take the high school entrance exam, he strayed into the warehouse of Infinite Stratos. Ichika, who was curious, immediately touched the Infinite Stratos there, and suddenly the Infinite Stratos reacted after being touched by Ichika. Meanwhile, Cecilia and Haoki were annoyed to see the two of them there. At night, Rin met them at the dormitory. Rin also wanted to switch places with Haoki. Not only that, Rin wanted to make Ichika her own according to their promise in the past. Meanwhile, the insensitive Ichika made the situation worse by forgetting their promise.
はい？
飯をご馳走してくれるって約束だろ。いやー、一人暮らしの身にはありがたい。
最低！
So Rin was determined to fight Ichika during the inter-class battle later, and the loser must comply with all the demands of the winner.
そこで勝った方が負けた方に何でも一つ言うことを聞かせられる。
おお、いいぜ。
A few days later, Ichika's fight against Rin begins. Rin continues to launch consecutive attacks toward Ichika.
甘い。
But thanks to the advice of his older sister, Ichika began to master Infinite Stratos well. He avoided Rin's attacks and turned things around. But suddenly, there was a shot that destroyed the arena's shield, so the match was temporarily stopped. The mastermind behind the explosion was a pilotless Infinite Stratos controlled by someone from far away. Ichika and Rin decide to work together. Unfortunately, their attacks don't work. Ichika's strategy is to beat him by absorbing Rin's attack power, and Yukihira's sword power strengthens. Even though he managed to strengthen himself, his attack could only cut one hand from the Infinite Stratos. When Ichika was almost dead, Cecilia came to protect him. But that Infinite Stratos could still survive all of Cecilia's attacks. Ultimately, Ichika used all his remaining energy in one ultimate attack. He defeated him even though he was almost killed. Afterward, Ichika was admitted to the hospital and accompanied by Rin because Rin was alone and intended to kiss Ichika. But he started to wake up, and even Cecilia and Haoki visited Ichika, so the three of them fought over Ichika. On holidays, Ichika met his friend named Dan. They played games together, and at the same time, Ichika told him about his school. Then came Dan's younger sister, Ran. She blushed when she met Ichika because she had feelings for Ichika. But unfortunately, Ichika is very insensitive. Then a teacher came to meet Ichika with Haoki. Her name was Maya. Maya asks Haoki to move because boys cannot share a room with girls. So Haoki complied with the teacher's words. Instead, she wanted to ask Ichika to date her if Haoki won the tournament.
来月の学年別個人トーナメントだが、私が優勝したら付き合ってもらう。
On the other hand, three girls overheard the conversation and immediately spread them to all the students. The next day, the students think that the winner of the tournament will get a date with Ichika. Then there was a representative transfer student from France named Charles. Charles introduced himself as a boy. Of course, it excites the girls, who want to make him a girlfriend.
二人目の男子。しかもうちのクラス。折村くんの黒髪もいいけど金髪もいいわね。
After that, they started studying in the field, but Maya instead fell from a height and landed right at Ichika. In the end, Ichika accidentally touches her boobs. Then Rin and Cecilia will practice against Maya. Unexpectedly, Maya is so strong that she easily both of them. After the lesson, Charles will share a room with Ichika because they are both boys. The next day there was another transfer student. She was a student from Chifuyu named Laura. Suddenly, Laura slapped Ichika and explained that she didn't recognize Ichika as Chifuyu's younger sister because he looked weak. Then Ichika and Charles train together, but Charles easily defeats Ichika. Because Ichika is a close combat type and has difficulty approaching enemies who use rifles, Charles also advised that Ichika could face opponents who use rifles. Suddenly Laura came to meet them, and this time Laura challenged Ichika to fight against her.
そこの生徒、何をやっている？今日のところは引いてやろう。
But a guard stops her and asks them not to fight there. After the lesson, Ichika returned to his room. He accidentally saw Charles, who was showering. It turns out that Charles is a girl. Seeing Charles' beautiful body made the atmosphere feel awkward. In the end, Charles also tells the reason for disguising herself as a boy. It turns out that she was ordered by her father to have a close relationship with Ichika by disguising herself as a boy so that Charles could investigate everything about Ichika. If Charles disobeyed her father's orders, then she would be punished. Knowing this, Ichika advises Charles to keep her identity secret because being in the Infinite Stratos school is safer and protects her from her father's threats. The next day, Cecilia and Rin were practicing to prepare themselves to take part in the tournament. But Laura came to interrupt them, and she used a medium-range Infinite Stratos. Because Laura is a student of Chifuyu, of course, her combat skills are powerful, and she won a landslide against the two of them. Seeing that, Ichika and Charles tried to stop Laura, but their attacks didn't work on Laura. Ultimately, Chifuyu immediately stopped Laura and advised them to continue fighting during the tournament. After that, Cecilia and Rin were seriously injured from the previous battle. Then the students came to meet Ichika. It turned out that they wanted to be on a team with Ichika to take part in the tournament together. But Ichika rejected all of them because Ichika had chosen Charles as his teammate. Then the tournament day arrived, and they were surprised because their first opponent was Laura and Haoki, while Haoki also did not expect that her partner was Laura. The first battle begins. The cooperation between Ichika and Charles is excellent. They managed to corner Laura, but Haoki protected her very well. Meanwhile, Laura didn't care about Haoki. She attacked her partner until she fell and couldn't continue the match. After that, the two of them launched an attack on Laura together, and the attack managed to injure Laura's Infinite Stratos so that her Infinite Stratos could not continue the fight. However, in Laura's eyes, a nanomachine can provide strength so that her Infinite Stratos envelops Laura's body. Ultimately, she became shaped like Chifuyu. Seeing this made Ichika angry because she tried to imitate his older sister. Then Charles gave Ichika the remaining energy. With that, Ichika could still fight even though he could only use one hand. But the attack managed to save Laura, who was trapped in the Infinite Stratos. After that, Laura was hospitalized and accompanied by Chifuyu. While Ichika and Charles enjoy a bath together, Charles also wants to show her body to Ichika so that he can fall in love with her beauty. The next day, Charles uncovers her identity and becomes herself as a woman named Charlotte. Of course, they were all surprised. There was even a rumor that Charlotte had bathed with Ichika. Knowing this, Rin, who is jealous, immediately beats Ichika up, but Laura protects him and even immediately proposes to Ichika to become husband and wife.
Laura, 助かったぜ、サンキュー。
お前は私の嫁にする。決定事項だ。異論は認めん。
Haoki contacted her older sister named Tabani. It turns out that Tabani is the creator of Infinite Stratos. Because of that, Haoki asked her to create Infinite Stratos for her. Of course, Tabani had predicted this, and she had made Infinite Stratos specifically for Haoki, named Akatsubaki. On the other hand, Charlotte asked Ichika to accompany her shopping. Of course, the other girls also followed them. Knowing they were being watched, Charlotte immediately took Ichika into the swimsuit shop. Charlotte immediately showed her the swimsuit of choice and asked Ichika's opinion. However, they were both caught, so they were scolded by Maya. After that, they arrived at the beach, they relaxed and enjoyed the beach together.
Laura! Laura?
At night, Cecilia, who was not used to eating with chopsticks, was assisted by Ichika in feeding her. Of course, the other girls were jealous of their closeness, because Ichika made a commotion asking Cecilia to come to her room after eating. When Cecilia headed to Ichika's room, another girl was eavesdropping on Ichika's conversation with Chifuyu. Because they heard Chifuyu's voice feeling satisfied, they thought that Ichika and Chifuyu were making out. But in reality, Ichika only gives massages to Chifuyu.
じゃあここは
そこは。
The next day, Haoki was looking at Tabani's belongings in the yard. Haoki also ignored the object, while Ichika, who was curious, immediately pulled the object. Suddenly, a carrot fell right in front of him, and inside was Tabani, who was looking for her sister.
引っかかったねイックん。ういういじゃあねイックんまた後でね。
Then Tabani showed them Haoki's special Infinite Stratos. She immediately piloted her Infinite Stratos, which is very strong because it is the latest product made by Tabani. Suddenly they got on a level mission because there was an Infinite Stratos with no out-of-control pilots. They immediately devised a plan to deal with it. This time, Ichika launched the last attack to finish Infinite Stratos because his ultimate attack was the most powerful of the others. The mission begins. Ichika and Haoki carry out the mission. Quickly, Haoki was able to find the out-of-control Infinite Stratos. Then they chased the Infinite Stratos until Haoki held back her movement. However, Ichika, who saw a ship there, immediately protected the ship from Infinite Stratos' fire.
Ichika!
Haoki also asked Ichika to ignore the ship because the ship was a pirate. However, Ichika also said that Haoki had changed after gaining power. She didn't even know herself and forgot about weaker people. Haoki also realized her mistake, catching her off guard, but Ichika immediately protected her from the Infinite Stratos attack. Ichika fainted because he was seriously injured. Ultimately, the mission was aborted. After that, Rin met Haoki, who was sad because she felt guilty about the previous incident and wanted to stop using Infinite Stratos. Hearing that, Rin immediately slapped Haoki, annoyed by Haoki's childlike attitude. Rin advised her to fight alongside them because Haoki's strength was needed to defeat the previous Infinite Stratos. Then another girl came to meet her. They also intended to take revenge and find Infinite Stratos out of control even though they disobeyed Chifuyu's orders. At night they had managed to meet the Infinite Stratos lost control. The battle was quite fierce. They jointly attacked Infinite Stratos. On the other hand, Ichika dreams of meeting a girl. She asked Ichika to wake up immediately. Not only that, but there was also the legend of Infinite Stratos named the White Knight. She also offered strength to Ichika and asked what this power was for. Ichika answered that he wanted to protect his friends with this power. On the other hand, they have been overwhelmed by Infinite Stratos because Infinite Stratos is stronger than them. Then came Ichika, who immediately helped them. Ichika's Infinite Stratos had leveled up to level 2, namely Setsura. Ichika can survive against the Infinite Stratos. They work together, and even Haoki managed to awaken the original abilities of Akatsubaki. That ability can replenish her shield energy to the full. As Ichika started running out of energy, Haoki immediately gave him all her energy. The other girls distracted Infinite Stratos so Ichika could launch his strongest attack. After that, they were punished for disobeying orders from Chifuyu, but Chifuyu was happy because they survived. At night, Haoki and Ichika were alone on the beach. They also want to kiss because they are in a romantic atmosphere. Unfortunately, the other girls meet them there. Annoyed, they started to launch attacks toward the two of them. And that is the end of the video. Remember to subscribe and like this video, so see you in the next video.